Good morning and good afternoon and good evening, wherever you may be watching from. I don't normally say that, and I probably should because Nancy, it's nighttime for her, and myself and Tammy are just getting up and at it. So, welcome to everybody that's watching live, or if you're watching the replay, thanks for joining us. We're just going to have a short, quick little live. My name is Keith Halwa. I'm from Alberta, Canada, father of two. I've got a few dogs and I'm married. And just maybe quickly pass this off to Nancy and Tammy to introduce themselves.
Awesome. I'm Nancy, mother of three, and live in Sydney, Australia. Mother of three, and I'm living with my husband, and I've got a puppy, a dog as well too. I shouldn't leave him out as well too. and my background is in education, and a year and a half I've been doing this amazing online business. You can go, Tammy.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy. I'm living here in United States, Maryland, with my husband and my two children. We don't have puppies. My children were allergic to puppies when they were younger.
Oh.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to have puppies, and we missed them so much about having a puppy or a pet throughout our lives. But yes, I'm here. I'm a hairstylist. I'm very excited to be here and talking about our journey.
Awesome.
Thanks, Tammy. So we're gonna do this unscripted. So we don't really know we never planned anything today. And I'll tell you what, for me personally, I always find these the most interesting because you never know what people are going to be talking about or what they're going to say. So I still don't really know either of your ladies' stories. Now, I know both of you immigrated from Iran to where you're currently at. Can I ask why or how?
Okay, I can start. I can start, yeah. So I'm 2000, I was 23, 29, now 49 now. So around that time I was living in Iran, and actually my husband found me there. He was living in Australia. He's Persian as well too. We got a family friend who traveled to Australia for a conference, and then my husband one then guy over here that I didn't know, Darius his name is, he talked to the other guy, and then anyway they introduced us. He sent us my husband's has handwritten a letter, sent it to him in 1998. There was no technology as such like this that we can see each other and talk. The people we haven't met yet, but like anyway. So letters, lots of letters after a year of talking, and a full box of cards, flowers, whatever overseas gifts. We met in middle country, Turkey, and we got married there. I went back to Iran, got my visa, everything sorted. After 8 months, came back over here, April 2000. And anyway, it's been now almost 25 years. This April will be 25 years. And anyway, life has been busy. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy always, because when I came over here, I was 24 and not really a formal education over there. Finished my high school diploma and wasn't sure what I want to do. A bit of doing short movie making. Want to be a director. I want to go to, I don't know, movies. I don't know, what do I want to do? Till like this happened, marriage happened. I came over here, then going to English classes, doing all the things that a new migrant doing, a new life in like faraway country. I think 26 hours. America is same as Iran, same things, like it's far too far away. It's not Europe. You can go 5 hours or 6 hours flight. So it's a long trip for me here, being lonely here. Anyway, and yeah, I've done my studies. I think for me as a migrant, I came a long way. Had 3 kids. I didn't have any family here. My husband didn't have any family here. Our kids grew up basically till they were 8 or 9. Now I got my whole family members. Everyone's here. But then when they grew up, we didn't have anyone here. It was me and my husband, and then 3 kids. They were young, like 2 years apart. They were really two. My eldest Kevin, he was born 2000, and then Chris, my second, was born 2003, and then Emily, my youngest, 2005, almost 2 years apart. And they're all now young adults, and I learned a lot through this journey. which we call life, and it wasn't always easy. I had a hard upbringing, life as well too. In my country, we've been through, I think, some parts I mentioned to Tammy. In part of the country that I live, we had a big earthquake, 1990. That our house was destroyed basically, and we rebuilt another one.
Wow.
I think after that earthquake was our life, it turned other way around, changed altogether. Nothing. I'm not sure it's a platform I talk about it, or I'm just going to talk about it later. I don't know. But then it's long journey for me, and I'm just so glad that I'm here. And for me, I always don't find success being rich or famous, being someone that acknowledge where you've been and how far you've come. So I think I'm that stage that when I look back, I'm proud of myself that I came this long journey and didn't give up. And then I think I found it all in my mom. I've got my dad living here as well, too, but my mom was the rock. My dad always falling down, always, I don't know, but my mom was picking everything. We were 7 kids, putting us all together. And yeah, I think I found success in life being someone who never give up and go ahead and look forward. Yeah, that's basically my journey.
Wow.
Very amazing.
How about you, Tammy?
Yeah.
All right. For me, I came a long way. Yes, when I was born and raised in Iran. When I got my diploma, it was very hard to get to college or university. It was very difficult, and I always wanted to study. I always wanted to become a doctor or someone. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend college or the university in Iran because it was very difficult. The timing was very bad. The situation in Iran was very bad. So um, uh, I was very fortunate to be able to get visa to go to Canada. So in 1994, I got visa to Canada, and I went to Canada. And life was very hard in Canada. Obviously, I had to start working and study language and everything. So it took me a few years to get know how to speak, and it was very difficult time. But then I worked like in different places, retails, and then my last job was working in a hair salon, and I decided that I really liked it, and I attended the college. I lived in Toronto from 1994 till 2000, and I was going to college, Seneca College, for cosmetology school. And then I met my husband, my current husband. He was living, or now as well, he was living in Maryland. So we met and we decided to just step forward. And he asked me to move to United States, but I had my life there. I didn't have any status here. I had to go through the whole like visa and everything again. So I left everything. I came here. I lived with him for a while, and then we decided to marry. And then I didn't have any status here. I had to wait for my permanent resident to process, and then I get my citizenship and everything. So I started studying slowly and slowly, but then I decided to go back to cosmetology school and get my cosmetology license. Meanwhile, I had my 2 children. My daughter was born in 2002, and 2003, end of 2003, I had my son. So I was very busy mom, studying and having a mom and running a household. But later on, I decided to fully go to school and get my license. And then since 2012, I started working. But I was fortunate enough to be able to go to work part-time and take care of my children. And then when they were older, to be able to take care of themselves, I started working full-time. And then before pandemic, I decided to open my salon. And here I am running my salon. And a few years later, after the pandemic, here I am with the online business.
Well done.
Great, great. You guys have got some of your dates that you're talking about, years. Some of them really stand out for me. So my story is you know, being in Canada and growing up as a Canadian, I don't think as a younger man, very young man, I didn't understand the country that I lived in and what the opportunities that we have here are. Now, part of that probably has to do with my upbringing. I'm child number 11 of 13. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, yeah. So growing up in our house was a very tough
Chaotic,
place.
no?
My mom and dad didn't have any money and grew up
Oh,
on a farm, so we were constantly as a young man, there was myself and then there was a string of girls and then some older brothers. But when my older brothers left, I ended up starting working like a man by the time I was 10 or 11 years old because my dad needed help. And so I never really, and this is going to sound kind of maybe petty a little bit, but I didn't really understand. I didn't have a childhood really. My childhood was very, very short from the time I was a baby till maybe to the time I was 10. So life being hard, there was never any talk of, well, what are you going to do when you grow up? What do you aspire to be? There was never any talk of that. Are you going to school? There was none of that. And so I just wanted to, I remember as a kid, we had these encyclopedias and I would go into them and I would look at the pictures of places around the world and I just wanted to leave. And so by the time I was 17, I left home and I didn't graduate high school. I wanted out. And so I left and literally left with no money and two bags of clothes and a sleeping bag. That's what I left home with. And I didn't even know where I was going. Uh, it was kind of funny because it was a Friday afternoon. I had packed my bags up, put them outside, went to school, and a friend of mine had a vehicle, so he came. I rode with him. We picked up my bags. We went to his house for the weekend, and his mom and dad always treated me very well, so I stayed there for the weekend. And then Sunday night came around, and his mom looked at me and she said, "Well, where are you going? You got to go somewhere. You can't stay here." So I'm just like, "Well, I don't know where I'm going." So I
oh,
finally called a sister of mine. I went and lived with her for a little bit, and that didn't work out. And that's when I started traveling. I went up north of where I grew up, an 8-hour drive from where I'm at to a world renowned place, Fort McMurray, where the oil sands are at. But that was to me was going from bad to worse because up there it's a really industrial city, and I didn't like that. I didn't want to be there. So I started working around Western Canada. I ended up out on the west coast of Canada for a bit. Um, I managed to start working in of course, manual labor jobs are easy to find for a young fella. I worked in a small, very, very small place called Lillooet, British Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful place. That was my first real job experience working on this hydro plant. And it worked out very well for me. Again, I had no formal training. I just worked. And the owners really liked what I did. So they sent me to the Philippines to work to work on another hydro plant there for a while. And so I came back from that. I didn't know what I was going to do. And as I think it was Nancy mentioned, 1994. Well, 1994, that's when I started my career in the oil and gas industry. I wanted to work. I knew it was busy. So I started doing that. And then in 1999, I hired on with a company that was going global where I ended up working in Cuba in 2000. That's when I started I went there for literally a few weeks to help out. And as you both know, it ended up turning into over 20 plus years. And then in 2003, I think Tammy was mentioning she had a son in 2003. And that's when I met my wife. And, back then, even in 2003 is not that long ago, but back then, the cell phones that we had, all you could do was send a call on it or send a message. And so when I met my wife, this is a real funny story, but I literally went in. I worked a 12-hour shift, and what the guy that I was working with didn't want to go into. It's a suburb of Havana for supper. He didn't want to go with me, and I kind of was humming and hawing, and I'm like, "Well, do I go? Don't I go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to go into town for supper tonight." So I went by myself, and I literally pulled into this little cantina and pulled into the back side of it, and there they just have. They're open air restaurant cantinas, and they had a wall in the back made out of coconut leaves or thatched roof and a thatched roof on it. And I pulled in there, and I was on the back side of it, and there was this window in the wall that looked through the kitchen, and then on the other side of it was the bar and the restaurant part of it. And I literally, and I'll never forget the day, but I literally stepped out of the car and I looked through this window, and this beautiful little Cuban woman's looking through this window at me, standing at the bar. And just the way she was looking at me and I was looking at her, I knew I was going to marry her. I hadn't even talked to her yet.
Oh, that's nice.
And so, but because of that time, I didn't have a way to communicate with her because my Spanish was very poor. I just was, still new in Cuba. And, it's so funny today. We've got these phones and whatever, and you can translate anything. Well, I couldn't do that with her the very first time I met her. I don't even remember what we talked about, but we sat there till, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 in the morning. I had to go to work at 6, and I was still sitting there trying to talk with her. And I got her phone number anyways, and that's how how I met my wife. But after that, I came back to Canada, and I literally took 2 pocket-sized dictionaries, English-Spanish dictionaries. She had one, and I had one. And so whenever I had a chance to get away from the drilling rig, we would literally just go sit in a cantina somewhere. And that's how we communicated, was with these 2 English-Spanish dictionaries. That was how we did it. She knew English, and I didn't know any Spanish, so that's what we did. And of course, she had a son when I first met her. I finally went to go see her house in Havana, and it's just, when I did that and saw where her and her son lived, it broke my heart, because it literally, when it rained, it was raining on their bed. There would be water dripping through the roof, and it was just a really sad place. My heart broke when I saw that. So that just made me want to help her even more. And that whole experience of Cuba, I could go on and on and on about. I don't want to. It's Cuba's a tough place. It's beautiful, but they have their issues there, and it's a really hard place for those people. So, but I wouldn't change any of that for the world. I mean, that was the best time of my life. I even talk about that with my stepson to this day. I bought a small little apartment to start out with in Matanzas, where we built our house, and he remembers moving there. But that was, that little apartment, and talking about, the struggles that you both went through moving to another country. That was the same as me in Cuba. Even though I was working and living there, I can understand the struggles of people that move across the world, because I had the same struggles in Cuba. And now that we moved to Canada, I feel my wife is having such a hard time of it. And I'm sure both of you can empathize with that, because she doesn't have any family here, and she had to literally make the decision to leave Cuba. She never wanted to leave Cuba. That wasn't her dream. I built her a house because she said she didn't want to leave Cuba, so I built her a house. And but we had no choice. It was either, she could have stayed there, but I couldn't have stayed there because I ended up losing my job, and what was I going to do there? And even today, it's worse than it was when I started there 20 years ago. So, or 20, well, it's been 24 years, I guess now. So, but she's having a tough time of it. And she's now getting to a point where she can get her Canadian citizenship. She's right there. And so, but she hasn't been back home since she's moved here. So she's been here now just 3 years. So she hasn't been home yet to visit family. She, at least now, they can get on the cell phone and they can talk and video, do whatever. At least they can see each other and talk. I mean, that's better. But I can understand, again, both of your stories, and see how hard, you, Nancy, talking about as a 24-year-old moving from Iran to Australia and starting your life. I mean, yeah, I totally get that. And everybody's story within the masterminds that we see, and people moving around, or the struggles that they go through, I really get it. I really see all of that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyways, that's my story quickly.
That's
Wow.
amazing. That's amazing. Keith, amazing. Yours too, Tammy.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Yeah, everybody has a story. When I listen to other people's story, I'm like, wow, I learned so much about everybody. Even though my whole life, when I go back and look at it, it was lots of ups and downs, and it was a lot of challenges, a lot of experiences. But as you Nancy said, when you look back, you feel that you came so far and you are so proud of yourself that you didn't give up, you passed all the challenges, and that's life.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
absolutely, don't give up. Keep doing what you're doing, and even to what we're all of us are doing now within this business. Like, I was thinking about this again last night, and I'm like, how come I'm not further along than I am? But part of it has to do with me personally, where I'm at in my life right now, because I'm in a different spot than a lot of other people. I could probably be a lot further ahead with it, but I'm choosing to take this really slow for a few reasons, because
Mm,
my and I'm not saying that I worked harder than anybody else, but when I started, like I said, I started working when I was a very young man at 10, 11 years old. And I'm not saying there's nobody else in the world that does that. I'm sure there's lots of young kids out there that, had to have it worse than I do, even today. But I never really took time for myself my whole life. I've just always worked, and that was what was instilled in me as a young man. So that carried over to my adult life. And working was, I've got to get out of that mentality that work, 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 work. I got to separate that a little bit. There's nothing wrong with working, but sometimes, like Nancy went on that beautiful holiday over to New Zealand. And that's what I need to do. I need to just go do something
mm,
and get away from my life for a little bit, and do something just like that. It doesn't have to be New Zealand,
yeah.
although your pictures were awesome.
It was amazing. Little in New Zealand is I haven't been, it's only 3 hours. By the way, we're just gonna off track, but it's only 3 hours flight from Australia. And I was telling my husband why we haven't been here, and it's cheaper to going somewhere in Australia. Actually, it was cheaper.
Yeah,
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 but
very nice,
it's
very good.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
What I learned, Keith, you mentioned, what I learned in this journey in this business is that we are not supposed to compare ourselves to anybody. Everybody has their own stories, and
No,
uh, we are where we are. We are supposed to be here, and everybody has their own path, their own way. So we get there. We know that the path we started is has a bright light at the end of the tunnel, but um,
Hmm.
there is no rush. There is no race. We just have to take our time and do our life the way we are supposed to.
oh, I firmly, I so believe that. I believe that if I just keep showing up and doing this with you on Thursday morning and whatever else I'm doing after this, I do go and look at what some of each of you are doing every once in a while. And for you, Tammy, I seen that one post that you put up there was a week or so ago, where you had yourself. You were talking, and you're standing in your business area where you cut hair, and you had some other stuff going on. But I was more focused on the comments in there, and there was a few people in there that said, I'm interested in what you're doing. I'm interested in what you're doing. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what she needs to be doing. She's doing the right thing. Absolutely. And somebody was asking me about somebody asked, I was in a group live with some people there on Saturday, and the fella is a barber, and he was asking, do I put anything up about being a barber in there? And right away I said, absolutely. I know this lady named Tammy, and she's posting herself in her hair salon, and she had people asking in her post. I said, yes, absolutely do that.
Yes, thank you, Kate. Yeah, you mentioned that you saw my ad. I was running my ads in Canada, and that's why you saw that, and you
Oh, is
liked
that
it. Thank
right?
you. Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
No.
You were targeted.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so good, Tammy. So yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing.
But
That was
anyways,
that was
this is we
amazing.
should maybe wrap this up. It's getting a little bit long now, but
Yeah.
thanks both of you for your stories. I want to learn more. I'm so interested in where you came from, and there's so many more questions that I really want to ask, but the time I think has run out today.
Yeah,
Maybe next
thank you
time.
for sharing your stories. It was very
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Keith.
Yes, thank you both.
No worries. You guys enjoy your Thursday. Our Thursday, you are your future. So beautiful things happening in future for you.
Yeah, well, you need to watch the mastermind from last night. It's a long one,
Yes,
but it's well worth it, I think.
It was very emotional. I watched it
yeah.
live, and it was very emotional.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you
you
very
guys have a
much,
good day. Thanks
everyone.
a lot. Have a
Thanks
good
for
day.
being with
Thank
us.
you.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.